And let's get started. Part of this is I do want you to kind of share your thinking with me so I
Okay.
can see whether it's stinking thinking or it's going to work every time for you. And so off to the races we go. If a company's dividend increases by 5%, but its market price remains the same, the current yield on the stock will.
Increase.
Yeah, excellent. Right. I mean, we got, what it pays us is more. And current yield is what it pays us divided by what it costs us. So excellent.
Yep.
That's, I was just talking to somebody earlier, previous session. And I think people really overestimate Oliver, the kind of math they're going to have to do. And I kind of get worried when they continue to want to talk about alpha and how to calculate alpha or standard deviation, when in reality, it's going to be more like current yield and working capital and some of those
Um,
things.
so I failed the test twice so far, so I've seen it
Okay.
two times
What'd you
around.
score the first two times?
Yeah, 69 and the
Ah,
70s,
oh, God. Oh, oh,
literally.
man, those kind of scores are exasperating. I mean, well, good news. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean you had a lack of dedication, discipline, or organization. It could be the draw. It could be changing answers. It's unfortunately not that you don't know it, and we know this one's going to be important because if you miss it this third time, as you know, I hope
Yeah.
that's a 6 month wait, and that's just a killer, right? So we got to make sure we suck it up and we get this done, right?
No problem.
Among the special characteristics of a universal life insurance policy is.
Okay, so it is not D. The termination could lead to a surrender charge. The policy owners can borrow against cash value. It doesn't have a cash value, so it's not B. Um, this one's increase the below the initial face value. It's A.
Death benefits may increase above the initial face value. You missed that one. It says the special characteristics, right? The special characteristics is the
Um,
policy may be overfunded because of that separate account. So you missed that one. Not a bad miss. Gonna get maybe one universal life insurance policy. I wouldn't worry about it.
okay.
An investment advisor is evaluating ABC stock to see if it's a fit for the client's portfolio. Using the security market line, what is the expected return for ABC when the return on the market is 20%, the 91 Treasury bill is 4%, the beta is 0.70, and the inflation is 3%. Wow. Every question is only worth 1 point. And one of the challenges is kind of read the question and decide, is there stuff in here that is not necessary to answering this question? So how would you
So
proceed on this one?
I'll be totally honest. I got this question earlier and I know what the answer is.
Okay, you tell me the answer and then we'll talk about it.
15.2.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing that I want you to kind of take away from the question is that the CPI has nothing to do with answering this question.
Mm-hmm.
Zero, right? The risk-free rate of return is whatever we assume it is. In this question, we would assume it's 4%.
Mm-hmm.
And 4% is what we get for not hazarding our capital, not risking our capital. So we're going to take the 4% away from the return, right? Because we could have got that without risking our capital.
Got it.
Beta 0.70 means 70% as volatile as the market. So that means when the market goes up, this is going to underperform the market. When the market goes down, it will outperform because it won't go down as much. So I again don't think you're going to have to do the math,
Yeah.
but the math would be the figuring out the expected return based on the what the market did, and then the 91 minusing that 4%, right?
Yeah, just knowing like the factors or the
Yeah,
formula.
it's mainly input and output. So
Yeah.
securities issued by which of the following would be exempt from registration under the Uniform Securities Act? So they're not asking about 33, they're asking about the Uniform Securities Act.
Okay. So,
Sorry, I think I need to get a smaller screen for you.
My gut says D, but I'm kind of
No,
thinking
always go with your
C.
gut.
Yeah,
Listen, always over go with your gut. So I don't know if you did change your answers on your two high miss mark scores.
I did on the
That could
last one.
very well be changing answers. So there's a couple of things. You got to be confident in the execution of your study plan.
Okay.
You've got to be confident in yourself. And most importantly, on Saturday, you got to be confident in your answers. You can't be second guessing your answers. You only change an answer. You're right. You got this question right. You go with your gut. You only change an answer if you got it wrong. You go, oh my God, I got it wrong. Still don't change it. And you know what the right answer is, then change it. But both, very rarely you're going to be both things. I know I got it wrong, gobsmacked. Oh, how could I miss that? Then you change it. The other thing
Okay.
I would tell you is that, stick with what you know. So don't be, they're good at wrong answers that sound good. So if
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
don't know what that answer means, don't take it, right? You should only take answers where you know what you're answering. Uh, when, as per the Sharpe ratio, a stock exhibits superior performance, it implies
Uh, it's not negative alpha, and I don't think it's beta. So I would assume it's A, a positive alpha.
I love it. I love it. I love your process. That's why they're talking about it perfect, right? It says superior performance, so you should immediately be thinking it can't be beta because
Yep.
beta is about superior performance, wouldn't be negative. And then Sharpe ratio, remember, not going to make you crunch it, but a higher Sharpe ratio is good. It's based on standard deviation. It just means you're getting more return per unit of risk.
Got it.
I don't know how much of my videos you've watched all over, but I always joke about the Sharpe ratio this way. Customer gives you $1 million, customer gives me $1 million and says, hey, I'm having a beauty contest, a bake off. Whoever has the most money for me at the end of the year gets my entire portfolio. And you're foolish enough to send me your portfolio. And it ends up that it's a tie. We both have $1 million too. And I say to the client, I go, no, it's not a tie. I win. He goes, well, what do you mean you win? You both have $1 million too. I say, yeah, but my Sharpe ratio was higher. So I got the same return, but I took less risk. That makes me the winner. So I would
Got
just
it.
know higher Sharpe ratio is a good thing. Positive alpha is a good thing. Excellent. I like the way you attack that one. XYZ looks like we're getting a heavy draw here
No
of
kidding.
modern portfolio theory stuff, right? I'm wishing for you on Saturday a dream draw. Everything you studied and wish for shows up. But every time, once in a while, we get one of these face of death draws where we just kind of have to deal with it the best we can.
Yeah.
Anyways, stock XYZ stock has a beta of 0.92. The risk-free rate of return is 3. The market's return is 8. So again, it's a buffet. I'm kind of riffing a little bit as we do this together, but I immediately like to take 8 minus 3.
Yeah. So 5
Yeah,
times 0.92.
that's exactly right. And that's why I like to do that. I say, okay, so I could get 3 without risking my capital. So the market return was actually 5%, right? And the beta is 0.92. So here it tells me the risk-free is 3. So we take the 3 away from the 8.08. All right. And we get,
And so we get 5 there. And then we would multiply it, if I'm not wrong, by the
that's right.
0.92.
That's right.
Okay. It says 4.6
Yeah. And then remember though, so 4.6,
plus
and
the risk-free rate of return.
that's 3%, right? So,
Yep. B.
oh,
Okay. Got it.
yeah. And again, it's a buffet. Math is one of the challenges about math is people think it's pretty cut and dry. It's not. A lot of ways to do math. And what just makes sense for me whenever I get this risk-free returns, I just immediately take it away from the market return. And I also take it away from, if they give me two numbers, the second number in the question. Now, sometimes we don't have to deal with it, but if we do, then that's the way I like to proceed.
Yep.
Under the Uniform Securities Act, all the following would cause an agent's registration to be canceled by the administrator, except
So it's B and D would definitely be a reason to. Asians found violence. Oh wait. Canceled, canceled, canceled. A is kind of what
Good
I'm
job, good
thinking.
job. I
Yeah.
get a lot of people that take exception with this question. And boy, I just, at least, I get it, if your language is not English, if it's Mandarin and, or Spanish or something. And, I'm trying to explain to them there's a difference between the word punitive, being punished,
Mm-hmm.
and just canceled. So A would be punitive. It would be something you did wrong, not canceled.
Yep.
Canceled means, I cancel my subscription. That doesn't mean anything other than I just cancel. So good job. That was a tough one.
Yeah.
A corporate bond with a 6% coupon is purchased for your customer's portfolio. If current bonds of the same quality and maturity yields 7.25, and the net present value of the bond is zero, the bond's internal rate of return is. I kind of like this one. It's kind of tough, but it's I think legit, and I think it's worth discussing a little bit.
7.25.
Yeah, and that's a sign of an efficient market as well, right?
Yep.
And the return rate of return, I always joke when, I was a practitioner, I'd say, Oliver, if you invest $1 million in this private equity fund and we get an internal return of, that would turn the $1 million into, $5 million. So the internal rate of return is what takes present value to future value. And a bond, that's going to be the yield to maturity. And here it specifically says there's no net present value. It says it's zero. So the present value, the future value are the same.
Same
Excellent.
thing. Yeah.
Excellent.
So I wrote down the future value, present value formula, and I have the IRR with the R, like underneath the R, and then I have under my yield to maturity because I do the teeter-totter as well. I
Excellent.
put the
Excellent.
IRR next to it. Is that the right thing to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always trying to come up with a better way to explain it to non, math people or non PhDs in modern portfolio theory. And the one I've been kind of working on is the idea of present value and future values. It relates to a customer who has 20 years to retirement. He's 50 years old. He says, Dean, I got 100 grand. I want to retire at age 70 and I want to have 400 grand. So the fancy word is we have present value of 100 and we have a future value of 400.
Mm-hmm.
And the internal rate of return is what will take the 100 to the 400 or 400 back to 100 if we're going to, go from future value to present value. In that example, if we do the rule of 72, I'd say, okay, well, if it's a 20-year time horizon and I can get to 200 over 10, right,
Mm-hmm.
that would be double the money and then double it again, I'd be at
Again.
400.
Yep.
So I could take 72 and divide by 10 years and come up with 7.2%. That
Mm-hmm.
7.2% is the internal rate of return. Then what I say is, okay, let's say we didn't have the 400. Nobody's going to make you come up with the 400, but your formula, right? To come up with the 400, if it was missing, I need present value of 100. I need the internal rate of return, which we just did with 7.2. I
Mm-hmm.
need the number of compounding periods, 20 years. Or if I want to go for future value, the 400, I don't have the 100. I could make you come up with 100, but again, the inputs, right? I got my future value 400. I got my internal rate of return 7.2, and then I've got the number of years of compounding period. So those are the inputs to that. And so that was excellent. I like what you did. I had a guy who was it's a very similar scenario. He said, Dean, I'm not paying you $225 an hour to tutor me on math on NASA exams. I'm a serious math geek. I can do all the math. And so, let's just cut to the chase. I said, fine. I'm making him sound like he has hubris that he doesn't. I mean, he really is a math guy. And
Yeah.
then, he passed, but he called. He said, man, damn, Dean, I should have made some flashcards on input and output. I mean, I was able to reverse engineer the formula, but they didn't really ask me to do the math. They asked me to recognize it. And I was struggling a little bit because I didn't really kind of look at the formulas and have, like you just told me, he had to kind of do it on the fly, which he was capable of, but it's better to not have to
Yeah,
be doing.
that would take a long time. That would take a
Yeah.
long time
Yeah.
to
I
be able to
mean,
reverse that.
yeah, you just, and you shouldn't have a time constraint on the test. I always tell people you have a time constraint. It's bad because that means you're turning aim and shoot point and click questions into judgment questions that aren't there. All the following statements related to an account registered as tenants in common is true except.
Okay, so B is correct. Upon death of one of the co-tenants, that individual's share of the account passes to the survivors. No. This form of registration is less common for married couples, and yeah, that's true. Each co-tenant has an undivided interest in the entire account. That's true. So it's C.
Excellent, excellent. That would be true of joint tenants with rights or survivorship, right?
Yep.
So you're definitely going to get those kind of questions. So those are layups as 65 goes.
Yeah.
An investment advisor's rep, I always think me. If I can put myself and my firm into the question, I'm going to do so. So Dean's business card contains which of the following designations would be in violation of NASA's policy on advertising. This is very testable.
Yeah, it's a D.
You're right on. Yeah, that's misuse of a non-existent professional designation, right?
No kidding. Yeah. CFP, CLU.
It's hard to believe how many times I see people. Like, I never know sometimes when I see people who are doing this, are they malicious or ignorant? It doesn't really matter in terms of test purposes, but I mean, like, okay, do you know that's not really, acceptable? Which of the following items is not necessary to establish before helping a client open an account?
Mm, So A and C are correct.
That's correct.
I'm
What
kind
is
of,
C called? Do you know what C is called?
that's called, oh God, needs analysis.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Now, usually when you're doing well, so I'll just tell you this is how I play this game on shared screen files. If
Yeah.
you're doing well, and I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to damage your psyche, I say, okay, let's go a little deeper, see what else you know, right? If you're not doing well, then I just leave it alone and we just can click buttons. But good job. So that's indeed what that is called. You said A and C, so now you got to deal with B and D as your remaining choices here.
I don't think that you technically have to have zero balances on your
Yeah,
credit
we never get
cards.
started, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going to help you on that, hopefully, as your investment person, right? I'm certainly very testable that you
Yeah.
need an emergency fund, right? I say, Oliver, most people would recommend at least 3 to 6 months in cash as an emergency fund in case you lose your job or, unforeseen things happen. And again, that's liquidity and that has opportunity cost because it's going to be money that's not invested. And the older I get, the more larger I want that fund to be, which is kind of stupid, but it is what it is, right?
Well, I always think that like you need to have a net profit no matter what. So you don't want to have a ton of debt, but if you have an emergency, you need an emergency fund. Like if you didn't have an emergency fund, it
That's
would
right.
almost seem like you don't have extra money.
Yeah, I like to keep a year's worth of expenses in cash because
Yeah.
it just makes me feel better. It's stupid, but right.
No, I mean I get it. I get it, honestly.
As written in the Investment Advisor Act of 1940, a person associated with an investment advisor is any partner, officer, or director of such investment advisor or any person performing similar functions, or any person directly or indirectly controlling or controlled by such investment advisor, including any employee of such investment advisor. Persons associated with investment advisor whose functions are clerical and ministerial are not included in the definition. Based on the definition, all the following are
Jesus
associated persons
Christ.
except. I like the question like that. They just give you a lot of free information. You're like, oh my God, they,
Yeah.
told me all kinds of stuff.
So A definitely is an employee with the duty. Hmm. The senior officer. He's an officer, so D is also correct.
Yep.
Um, Silent partner in the advisory firm organized. I think C, so I'm gonna guess it's B.
Yeah, good job. You're correct because graphic design is not public contact regarding investments. I'm not soliciting anybody.
Yep.
I'm just jazzing our stuff up, making it look pretty.
Yeah, it was the research part that kind of threw me
Yeah,
off a little bit.
yeah, you got it. Gem contracts with XYZ Advisory Service for the design of a financial plan and investment advice. He pays an upfront fee when the contract is signed and receives the disclosure brochure at that time. After 3 days, Jim decides to cancel the investment advisory contract according to the Uniform Securities Act. Which of the following statements is true?
D and C are both wrong.
That's correct.
Uh, I'm gonna go B.
Yeah, I like this one.
Yeah.
This is called the 48-hour rule, right?
Yep.
The 48-hour rule is this idea that I haven't given you time to look it over. And then remember, that means you have 5 days to kind of rescind that thing. Now, I
Yep.
don't know, Oliver, how you feel about this, and I'll just tell you again, every tutor is a little different. I do believe in test taking tricks.
Mm-hmm.
We only use test taking tricks when all else fails. And Chuck Lowenstein at Kaplan is the guy who wrote this question. And even my friend Brian Lee, they get mad at me, but they fall prey to the trick I'm about to share with you. Too long to be wrong.
Yep. Actually,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking when I was answering this question
Yeah,
because I was
well,
looking
the
between the two.
reason it kind of works is because guys like, as much as they hate me saying this,
Yeah.
they what test writers do sometimes, and me included, we start with what our right answer and wrong answer is going to be the answer set, basically. And then we reverse engineer the question. And so either, B is a hell of a distractor.
Mm-hmm.
That's the technical name for wrong answer, or it's the right answer because my friend Chuck is pretty involved in that B choice there with all that's there. Now, remember, I didn't say that you shouldn't learn the information. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
say you go with too long to be wrong. I said if you need to use a test taking trick, you did one the other on a previous question. I thought you did well. You did what I call the Sesame Street trick. One of these things is not like the other. You did, that was that one with the clerical person. You did another
Oh
one I
yeah.
like. And good test takers, they may not have formal names for the tricks. You did another great one on a previous question. You did what I call process of elimination,
Yep.
where you say, okay, I know it's not A, I know it's not C. And so these are just, kind of giving formal names to test taking tricks. Good test takers intuitively know tricks. We're not saying you're going to pass your third time using tricks. We're just saying when all else fails, you got to do something, right?
Yeah.
So all the following are features of limited partnership, direct participation programs, except.
So that's true. C is true. Oh, think I think it's A.
Excellent. Good job.
Yeah.
Which of the following are prohibited practices? Which of the following are prohibited practices? Let me roll that up for you a little bit.
Yeah. Two. I don't think it's three. So, um, that's good. Can you go back to the top of the question to make sure I'm answering it
Sure.
correctly?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, my bad. Okay. Sorry about that. Which of the following are prohibited practices?
Yeah, it's A, I think.
Yeah, I like that. So, what you want to do is maybe you can also just read each of these Roman numerals as standalone and either write prohibited next to it or not prohibited. I like what you did. I think you kind of did that when you put these. I think you said three's not prohibited and then use that as a pivot, which I thought was a good idea, right? You took three out and said, okay, if three's out, then let me pivot to what's left
One,
and
I know
do it.
two was correct, so it was between two and three. I just want to make sure four wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
knew it had to be, if it wasn't three, it had to be one and two.
There you go. Love it. Good test taking skills. One of your clients has a tendency to follow the actions of a larger group of people when making financial decisions. Whether those actions are rational or not, the client's behavior is an example of
Oh, herd mentality.
right on. Those are, part of human, psychosis, non-financial kind of considerations, right? So
Yep.
that is testable. Which of the following is correct regarding zero coupon bonds?
So it's not the A is definitely not right. Eliminate reinvestment risk. Let's see.
Yeah, excellent, right? You might have a bigger problem at the end, but you don't have any problem along the way. I say, Oliver, usually every 6 months you get paid and you got to decide how to reinvest that money. And your overall rate of return is going to be dependent on how you're reinvesting that coupon.
Mhm.
In a zero coupon bond, your rate of return is locked in. So they're used to eliminate reinvestment risk, or we could also say lock in a rate of return. They're good for somebody who needs to set some money at some future date. There is no draw on which you're not going to get something about zero coupon bonds, right? They're definitely on there.
Yeah.
ERISA stands for every ridiculous idea since Adam. No, I'm joking. It stands for the Employee Retirement Income Security Act. The Employee Retirement Income Security Act does not apply to.
So it's got to be 3. It's D.
Yeah, it doesn't cover public pension plans.
Okay.
Public
Who
pension
covers?
are
Yeah.
allowed to make promises to employees and not have any way of making good on it. The state of Illinois has tens of billions of dollars in unfunded pension liabilities.
Oh.
City of Chicago has unfunded pension liabilities. If you were a corporation at ERISA, you would have to fund your retirement plan. If you make a promise to your employee about a percentage of their base pay for the health care for the rest of their life, you're required to set aside that money so you can make good on that. So it doesn't cover private pension, public pension plans.
Got it.
Sortel Industry has preferred stock outstanding that pays an annual dividend of 3.75, $3.75 a share. The investor wants to earn a rate of return. How much should she be willing to pay for a share of Sortel preferred stock? Kind of interesting question. I think a couple ways to go about it.
So what am I trying to think? The thing is, I actually do the reverse engineering on
Yeah, that's
this.
what I would do. So here's what
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I would have proceeded here. I'd say, okay, well, so what they're really asking me is what would give me a current yield of 8.5%. So I think what I would have done is just taken my calculator. Let's see if this gives me one of the choices here. I would have taken current yield is what it pays me divided by what it costs me. So
Mhm.
I'm just going to take the 375, and I think of these answers as offers. And then I just look at my offer and say, okay, let me do the first offer. They say 44.12. So I'm going to take 33.75, divide by 44.12.
Yeah, that's the right one.
And let's see if that ends up, the math plays out. I get 8.5. Ding, 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 ding.
Yep.
So just a different way of asking current yield, which, I
Yeah.
think is kind of legit. I mean, so yeah. One thing too about math, I would just say in general, I always tell people on the math, give yourself permission to take a strategic pause and say, okay, maybe I have flashbacks from middle school with by my guy named Mr. Bruner, I'm triggered, like a math question. So, you take a strategic pause and you say, okay, Dean told me it's not going to be all that complicated, so I got to figure out the hack. What is the easy way to get to the answer? A review of the prospectus for an open-end mutual fund, an open-end investment company, reveals the portfolio consists entirely of negotiable jumbo CDs, treasury bills, commercial paper. This is probably,
B.
yeah, right on. It would have a fixed NAV of $1,
Mhm.
right? And this would be for somebody who needs their money to be liquid. They
Mhm.
love to give you a question about suitability on a short time horizon, where they say, your customer has sold their house in California because they're being relocated to Nevada or wherever. And they say, hey, Oliver, I'm going to rent a house till I find, or rent an apartment till I find a neighborhood I like and a house I'd like. And then they ask, what should you do with the proceeds from that house sale in California? And you'd say money market fund, right? So that
Yep.
money's available when they, decide to squeeze the trigger. From your meetings with Avery, you realize there's a tendency to follow the actions of a larger group of people when they're making financial decision. It makes no difference. Okay, welcome to the straw. We get two. Now, sometimes on the real test where this happens, I've had people tell me they answer one way the first time and the second way, figuring they'll get a 50. I go, no, don't do that. Answer consistently, right?
Oh,
So
I've done
it
that.
makes no
Yeah.
difference. Choose the behavioral finance theory that explains Avery's behavior.
I'm gonna have to go with D here.
Yeah, there
Let's
you
go with
go.
D. Yeah.
Remember, overconfidence is hubris. Anchoring is like an inherited position where, the families worked at the company for
Yeah.
years and years.
Confirmation bias. I've never even heard of that.
Confirmation bias means that just because it's worked for you in the past, you stick with it. I was
Okay.
reading where Charlie Munger is the partner of Warren Buffett who recently passed, and
Yep.
they were asking what he taught Warren Buffett. I thought, wow, okay. I'm interested to know what Warren Buffett says his partner taught him. And what he was giving was a version of confirmation bias that Warren had been doing the same thing for a long time, which was trying to buy the companies at the cheapest price possible,
Yep.
but was stuck in a universe of stocks that weren't great businesses to own under any circumstances. And he said, what Charlie Munger told me is that I should be willing to pay a higher price for a better business. Like, I just can't, let the math be the end of the day. So I do my discounted cash flow on Bank of America and I come up with $30 as a good present value, and the stock's at 31. What Warren is saying is in the old days, he wouldn't buy it for 31. And, what Charlie told him is, hey, spend the dollar to get a decent business. Right? Don't get a cheap, a bad business at a cheap price, get a good business at a, fair price. So that would be confirmation. Statistical method used to determine the return profile of a security or portfolio that recreates potential outcomes by generating random values based on risk return.
Monte Carlo.
Yeah, right on.
Whenever you hear systems and generating random returns.
Right.
Yeah.
One problem facing an agent and a client alike is determining how much life insurance is needed to meet future needs. One tool that making this determination is.
Ooh, that's A.
Yeah. The National Securities Market Improvement Act.
NISMIA.
NIMSMIA.
Market system. Between D and C, but I think it's C.
You're correct. Trust your gut. It created two things. It created federally covered investment advisors and federally covered securities. Those are the two buckets. What makes you a federally covered advisor? You'll never be both. Your investment advisory firm is either federally covered or not. You're never both. So what would make you a federally covered? You're an investment advisor rep. What makes your firm federally covered or not?
If you have over 110 million assets under
110 million, you
management.
belong to the feds. That's right. You belong to the SEC.
Yep.
What about 100 million or more?
You get the choice between state or fed.
How far can you go down before you get booted to the state or states?
90 million.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. The reason that's also important is because then there's lots of questions that follow from that, right? If you're an investment advisor rep of a federally covered investment advisor, neither you nor your firm ever have to deal with de minimis. It just doesn't exist.
Yep.
If you're federally covered, you only, as an investment advisor rep, are going to have to register in a state if you have a place of business, period, full stop. You could have 1,000 clients in the contiguous state, and as long as you have no office, you don't have to register. So that is something to kind of pay attention in terms of that flow chart. What are federally covered securities? Securities that we don't need to register through coordination or qualification.
And it would be the notice filing one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're right. Notice filing. I love it. That's not
Yeah.
a method of registration, though.
Yep.
I'm asking you who can do that. So my question is, I'll take that answer. What federally covered securities are allowed to do a notice filing rather than registering through coordination or qualification?
Securities that are listed on the top exchanges or have already,
Right
or
on
they're doing an
markets.
additional
I
securities.
like it. New York and NASDAQ, you're correct. So what else? So New York and NASDAQ, you got two. There's two more.
New York, NASDAQ, Dow.
Well, Dow isn't a market center. Market center is New York and NASDAQ.
Pick up. Um, which ones
Mutual
don't?
funds. Mutual funds.
Yeah.
Mutual. Now remember, you're going to have an answer set in front of you. I'm asking you to pull these things out of the stratosphere. So, don't beat yourself up, right? You would
Yep.
have an answer set in front of you. The last one would be a Reg D private placement,
Yep.
right? For an exempt transaction under 33. Excellent. Excellent. Despite management's best efforts, a corporation with stock traded on the New York has had to declare bankruptcy and is being forced to liquidate assets. The liquidation priority is determined by,
Seniority of the claim.
yeah, remember it'd be the secured bondholders, unsecured bondholders, preferred in common.
They'll never ask wages, right? Like that's just kind
They
of
don't,
what I've
yeah. I mean, the
seen.
test prep vendors get into it, but as an investment advisor rep, I don't represent the employees. However, that being said, the employees get paid first because they weren't capitalizing a business.
Yep.
People who invested in the capitalization, the bonds and the stock, knew they were taking a businessman's risk. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, indeed, the employees will get paid before the investors,
Got it.
and the IRS gets paid before the investors. So
Yep.
government and the employees come at the front of the line, right? One of the distinguishing characteristics of an investment advisor is that of a fiduciary responsibility to clients. That responsibility specifically requires the investment advisor
B.
Yeah, that's exactly what fiduciary means, right?
Yeah.
It would be considered a violation of the anti-fraud provisions of the Uniform Securities Act for an agent to
B.
disregard clients' complaints sent to the agent's personal email address. So a violation of anti-fraud, that is unethical, but that's not the willful thing to deceit. So this is you're going to miss this one. The answer is D is in dog.
Oh shit! I didn't read that one all the way through.
Right? Attempt to prevent a possible heart attack by telling your elderly client the largest position of the client's account is only down 10, when in fact the company is preparing to file for protection under bankruptcy clause and the stock is worthless. That is the bigger problem.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't read that all the way through.
And too long to be wrong.
No kidding.
When does a deliberate omission of a fact in a security sale constitute fraud? So, what kind of facts would subject you to a charge of fraud?
The let's see. It's A.
Yeah, good job, right? That's the whole
Yeah.
point. I saw the broker being interviewed, and they asked him why he didn't tell the client the information. He said, I thought I'd lose the sale. I couldn't think of
Jesus
a
Christ.
worse answer. That is the all-time worst answer. I'm supposed to say, Oliver, something you ought to know. It might alter your investment decision. The term for that is a material fact.
Yep.
Definition of material fact is a fact that would alter somebody's decision. So good job. Mr. and Mrs. Williams are a retired couple receiving most of their income from a diversified portfolio of high-quality bonds and preferred stock. One of the reasons that life insurance might be a useful addition to their overall planning is that. I kind of like this one. There's not many life insurance questions, but
Oh, I failed life insurance the first time. I've passed everything else
well,
the
that
first
it
time.
looks like Oliver, you're choosing the hard way. I would tell you though, I'm not being facetious here. There are very, very many very successful people in our business. My best broker took the test 5 times. He used to go out and tell people, "Hey, if anybody knows this stuff, it's me. I had to take the damn test 5 times." Proof that people invest with you because they like you and they trust you. And secondly, I always tease people, but it's serious when people will say, Dean, that's my got it done on my 3rd time or whatever it is. I say you really passed 2 tests. You passed the 65, and more importantly, you passed a test of resiliency. And passing that test is a huge indicator of your future success because there's some people who just fall apart in the when they get negative feedback of any kind, they just collapse rather than, I have now she's taking the 65 and she's already a top life insurance producer. There's no way they're not getting rid of her because she brings in too much money. But you know what I love about her, Oliver, she never had her self-esteem wrapped up with this stuff. She just kept keeping the damn test and she took it over and over and over again. And she didn't carve out the time because I mean, she's a producer and she waited 6 months and over again. Finally, she got done, and she has people that report to her. And I said, "Well, nobody's ever going to be able to tell you that you don't understand the plight of taking a test. It's easier to get it done the first time, but hey, not everybody's path includes the smooth sailing through the matriculation process of getting their exams. So why are we going to tell them they might want to add some life insurance to their portfolio?
Um, um, B. Jesus.
Right on, right
Yeah.
on. That's the whole point. We have enough liquidity to take care of things.
Yeah.
An unaffiliated person acts on behalf of an investment advisor and attempt to solicit or refer new investment advisory clients. Which of the following conditions is not required by the Investment Act of 1940 if the solicitor fee is $100 per month for this service?
D.
D, you said this. Yep, there you go. Right. Which is not required. I don't have to be registered. I use my broker dealer as a solicitor for investment advisory firms. And the broker dealer does not have to be registered as an investment advisor. Right. So good job. Which of them are not investment advisors under the Uniform Securities Act?
One, two. It's gonna be B.
You missed it.
What? Is it 1 and 2?
It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Joe advises customers on the value of gold and silver coins. Those aren't securities.
Okay. Yep.
The trust department of the bank is not an investment advisor. The trust department doesn't charge fees for it in the investment advice. It manages the trust accounts. It's a carve out a particular exclusion. Tammy writes a newspaper column. She's a journalist who writes a column. That's an investment advice column. It's general circulation. So she's not an investment advisor, and you are not an investment advisor. So the answer is 1, 2, 3, and 4. You said 1 and 4. So you said the trust department is an investment advisory firm. That's not true. And you said 3, Tammy writes a newspaper column and she's an investment advisor, and that's not true either. The other thing that might be helpful is Tammy is an individual, and individuals aren't investment advisors. Investment advisors would be on natural persons. By the way, don't beat yourself up. I think that you've got 2 misses here in 31 performance opportunities, and that will certainly get it done. That will certainly get it done. In which one of these business entity does the term member refer to the owners?
Limited liability, or
Yeah,
LLC.
I had somebody the other day took exception with a question. It was very similar to this kind of question. I said, well, you should know it's an LLC because they use the term members, and that means LLC, vice versa. So, that's very much business structure. I always tell people be prepared for that answer set because any one of those could have been the answer. I said, I could have said with the same answer set, which of the following is the easiest business structure, the form, and end? That would be sole proprietorship.
Yep.
I could have said, which of the following business structure does not allow alien shareholders?
Yes.
Right? Or has a maximum of 100 shareholders. I could have said, which of the following is a passive ownership with a flow through, and that would be limited partnership.
Yeah.
So those all could have been right answers. Both state and federal law have record keeping requirements for broker dealers. This is very testable. When it comes to email correspondence, the requirements are so. The state can impose on a broker dealer a higher standard than I'm already meeting as a broker dealer. So broker dealers get to say, wait a minute, I'm a broker dealer, and you can't make me do anything as a state that I already have to do for the SEC. So when it comes to email correspondence, now both NASA's state and federal SEC have said over and over and over again, they make no distinction between the method of communication, but rather the content.
Well, if it's written correspondence, it would be 3 years because broker dealers keep on file for 3.
Yeah, and they can't make me do 5. Investment advisors are 5, but be careful. If any part of a statement is false, the entire statement is false. And so C says the firm must keep correspondence in the cloud. Yeah. To keep in the cloud, you could keep it on your own servers. You could keep it in your filing cabinet. You can keep it where you want. So you're correct to say that the vast majority of brokerage firm records are 3. That's true. But what's not true is that you don't have to keep them in the cloud.
So it would be D.
Excellent. There's no separate standard.
And I would have gone C there too, which is frustrating because I guess I wouldn't have thought about the cloud part being in like the one word to kind of set off the question.
Yeah, well, there's you always as a reader. So that's why we say you want to make sure you're getting a good night's rest, because when I'm tired, my reading skills are diminished.
Me too.
But there's 2 key pivot words here: must, and then the cloud. So whenever I see like always or must or never, those are those words where you gotta go, okay, unless it's like, when can I commit fraud? Never. When should I be acting in good faith? Always. But if it's not that, that's kind of a trigger where you go, okay, if I hear some of those hard terms like must or never, I better go back and kind of look at that. Right. So the key part about C is must keep it in the cloud. No.
Got it.
Remember, the second part of that is, as I told you, is that if any part of a statement is false, the whole statement is false. So, we get a long sentence and you got a comma, you better read after the comma because the comma could then be the part that makes the answer not correct any longer, right? So you just gotta, I really think these NASA exams, I tell people, are definitely reading tests.
No kidding.
What are the following statements regarding Coverdale's ESAs?
Jesus.
The main test question on your real test is going to be Coverdale suck, and 529s do not.
Yeah, no kidding. They
Qualified
really
tuition
are awesome.
plan, right? So I always joke in the beauty contest or bake off, the 529 is always going to be the winner. In
Which is
fact, most
funny.
people I do business with tell me their firms don't even offer Coverdale's anymore.
Yeah, I haven't actually know if mine does. I would assume so. I bet Wells does, honestly.
What's that?
I bet Wells Fargo does. They're so old at this point.
You know?
Coverdell ESAs are just like,
But I got to tell you, Henry Wells, I noticed that they're starting to brand up a little more on Henry Wells, but Henry Wells should be in the Business Hall of Fame. Not only did he start Wells Fargo, but he also started American Express. And I think, man,
yeah.
if you're a guy who started two major Fortune 500, that's like, wow, kind of like the Elon of the day, right? You got
Um,
that.
I feel like honestly, Jamie Dimon's probably. I just think of Jamie Dimon having taken over because he took over Amex, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
and
well,
turned it into.
he started, his dad was a top producer at Smith Barney, a stockbroker, and his first job was as an assistant to a guy named Sandy Weil.
Yep.
And Sandy was the guy who was running American Express, and Jamie was his assistant. And they would never promote him. And I used Jamie because I had a person who was working at BlackRock, and she was afraid to take a job as an assistant to a very high end person. And I said, because her friends were making fun of her, well, you're going to be an assistant and not a vice president. I go, it's
It's
all about
Jamie
who you're an
Dimon.
assistant to.
Yeah.
Jamie Dimon's case, he was an assistant to a guy named Sandy Weil, and when Sandy wouldn't take care of him, they were at Solomon Brothers already. Then he left and he took over took over the bank, got his own gig, and he's a living legend. But I said that what I was trying to tell her is the person you're the assistant for is going to put you back on the track when he's done with you, and you're going to be way ahead of all these people making fun of you.
No
They're going
kidding.
to be like vice presidents, and you're going to be like a senior vice president. And sure enough, that's what happens. So I always joke, it depends who your assistant to. Your point. If Jamie Dimon said, "Hey, Dean, you want to be my assistant?" I said, "Absolutely."
Absolutely, I would.
You
Any day of the
have
week.
in fact, I'll pay you. You don't even have to pay me, right? I wish I could get younger men and women, and now that I'm an old guy, to understand that in the beginning, I understand, resources could be limited, but it's much more important, I think, beginning to have a good learning experience and have people like, mentors that can help you get ahead. I just had a guy on my channel. It was funny. I went to work for him. It was one of my first jobs. His name's Jeff. I feel sorry for him because I shouldn't feel sorry for him, but he's now 72, and was saying on the channel, "Hey, when I sold you that Porsche, did you have it? It's so cool that I hired you and you've made a career." And I thought, oh man, he must be getting lonely if he's surfing YouTube. So I have to reach out with him. But I told him, his case, same thing. I said, Jeff, you're a great learning experience, but guys like me, we got to leave at some point because you won't pay us. And he says, well, that's my business model. I teach people things, I pay them lower wages, and they leave me. I go, and I felt like saying, that's
That's a
why you're
bad
alone
business
now,
model.
right? If you would have paid people, you would have a whole group of people that are still around and, love you.
Yeah. It's true though. I feel like networking is everything, especially in finance. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
how I got this job. I worked at Wells out of high school, and then I'm coming back now, like 5 or 6 years later, in a much better position. So that's kind
Yeah,
of
and,
nice.
and the other thing too is, with Jamie Dimon's taking heat for this, so is the guys at Goldman Sachs, but old guys like Dean are saying, listen, it's neat to be able to work from home, but you miss the opportunities and the institutional knowledge you could learn by coming to work. So,
Okay.
we're not trying to punish you by telling you we want you to come to the office 3 days a week. Embrace it. Come to the office,
Seriously.
have lunch, and talk to the people who could teach you some things.
Okay, let's figure this out. This is not correct. A is not correct. Coverdell USA is lie up to 2000. That should
Yeah,
not
you're
take me
correct.
that long.
You are correct.
That's probably one of my weakest areas.
Yeah, well, that's okay. You're doing pretty good so far. So, so far, so good. A working group convened by NASA has developed a model fee disclosures schedule to help investors better understand the costs involved in doing business with their broker dealer. The template has broker dealers disclose all the following fees except.
See,
Yeah, well, the interest charge is going to be, so you say debit balances.
oh,
Are we going to tell you the interest charges on your margin account? We certainly are. That is going to be in our disclosures of fees to you.
It's so D and B
Yeah, I don't like the
macros.
phraseology on this test, on this question. You missed it.
Yeah,
Um,
is it A?
Here's what they're getting at. Markups and markdowns aren't part of this model fee disclosure.
Got it.
Markups and markdowns and commissions are on the confirmation. So what they're really getting is, where is the disclosure made? This is made in this template we're discussing. The interest on your debit balance is in that disclosure. And then remember, the other question here is, we have to give you 30-day advance notice to change the fee,
Got it.
right? And so cost of overnight delivery service, markups and markdowns. The answer is A, because that is disclosed, but not in that template.
Got it.
That's disclosed on your confirmation. As used in the regulations, the term in-person investment advice means.
Not A, not B. Let's see, it's D.
Good job. Good job.
I thought I've seen this question. I think I've always thought it was C until recently, because that what would that be like if you're getting like advice from a group of advisors
Well,
or
the
team of
test question there is,
advisors?
if we're working as a team, that's perfectly okay if we're affiliated with the same firm. And
Hmm.
the test question there is, I don't have to disclose how the team is splitting up those commissions.
Correct.
I
Yep.
still have to disclose the fees or commissions, but I don't have to tell you how, what
We
team members.
split it. Yeah.
So that's a different disclosure. And then the second part is the team that's managing them, the people, that's Form ADV Part 2B.
Got it.
Firm, and 2B is the people. If an economist were to describe defensive issues, he would probably not include companies that produce.
A.
Yeah, right on. Building materials is cyclical. When things are good, they're really good.
Yep.
Bad, right? Defensive means resilient to the business cycle. So you got to eat, you got to wear clothes. If you're a smoker, you're probably going to smoke even more. Included in the definition of a derivative would be all the following except.
Options is a derivative.
Right on.
Futures are a derivative.
That's correct.
Rights are a derivative. So B.
Love it. I love it. Process of elimination. Your client purchases 100 shares of XYZ Electric Auto Company on the assumption that rising fuel costs will create more interest in more efficient means of transportation. If he's wrong, the resulting drop in the market price of that stock would be due to.
C.
Yeah, that's right. The business. You chose the wrong place to be, right?
Yep.
XYZ Aircraft Manufacturing Corporation, based in the US, announces a multi-billion-dollar order for its new jumbo jet from Fly Airlines, a Japanese-based carrier. When the sale is completed, there will be, I like this one.
Yep. I've gotten this before, and it is a credit to the current account of the US because it's
Right
based in the
on, right on.
US.
Money in, right? Credit's money in,
Yeah.
debit's money out,
Yeah.
right? And then, you'll get one of the big differences on the 65 versus the 66 is there's more of this kind of economic stuff.
Yeah.
And then they'll also ask you again about the value of the dollar and how that would affect, in this case, let's call it Boeing, and let's call this Nippon Airlines. And so when the dollar is weak, that would help US exporters. And when the dollar is strong, that would hurt US exporters because we have to get more money for the product, right?
And so people are less likely to buy
That's
it.
right,
Yeah.
right? So, and then, they ask about, when the dollar's strong, that would be cause a deficit to the balance of trade, because when the dollar's strong, Americans are going to buy more tequila and more, French wine and whatever, right? So good job. If an investment advisor uses a questionnaire to determine a client's financial situation, the advisor is.
Definitely A.
Yeah, I mean, that's how a lot of us do it. I say, however, for me to do a really good job for you over time, I need to know a lot about you. The more I know about you, the better I'm going to be in determining suitability. The Seeking Alpha Growth Fund directs a sizable portion of its portfolio executions to your broker dealer. If the firm has this fund on its highly recommended list, this would be.
Conflict of interest that would have. A.
Yeah, you love me and I love you. It's fine. We just got to disclose it. I say, hey, yeah, I like them. They do a lot of business with us. I do a lot of business for them. Uh, we aren't allowed to demand reciprocal business. I can't say, hey, if you don't do your trades with me, I'm not going to sell your mutual funds. An individual wishing to register as an agent with a broker dealer may have to do which of these. So, you should probably know what is necessary to become an agent of a broker dealer.
So it's definitely one.
Right on.
It can either be 1 and 3 or 1 and 2, and it's an agent, so it's gonna be C.
Right on.
You'd only post a bond if you were taking custody or maintain discretion.
Yeah, it would
Discretion.
be, yeah, I don't really like this because usually it's not going to be the rep that posts the bond. It's
Yeah, it'd be the broker dealer.
surety bond is going to be posted by the broker dealer.
Yeah.
One of your clients invested $10,000 into a mutual fund. The client elected to reinvest all the dividends. This is very testable. This is called a DRIP, a dividend reinvestment program,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very testable. So this
That's not the.
I think this is a roundabout way to get at the test question. So once you answer, I'll tell you what it's going to be a little more straightforward than this. But
I think it's just C.
it's not what they're getting at in a roundabout way here is to know that you could have had those dividends, and as far as the IRS is concerned, Oliver, that's the same as getting it. So
Okay.
you're going to pay taxes on those dividends whether you reinvest them or not. So that means when you reinvest them, that you're adding to your cost basis because that's new money.
Got
So I
it.
don't think it'll be that roundabout, but the test takeaway is if a mutual fund offers a DRIP, a dividend reinvestment program, and you choose to reinvest the dividends and capital gains distributions, it's still taxable to you.
Yeah.
Because you got constructive receipt. And so that's why the answer here is A, right? So, excuse me, not A, I'm sorry,
B.
B as in
Right.
boy,
I
right?
had a question earlier. I don't remember what it was, but it was talking about that, and I totally got it. I think I got it wrong. I don't know what it was though. I don't
No, they'll
remember
find
what
it.
it
Even
was.
it's not transactions, it's a relationship. So you don't
Yeah.
need to book another tutoring session. You bump into that question. If it's a capital question, just send me the QID. I can bring it
Okay.
up and see what you're looking at backstage. One
Okay.
other point, remember, this is the major distinction between a variable annuity, which is a mutual fund with the insurance wrapper, and a variable annuity, you don't get constructive receipt. I say to you, Oliver, did you get a choice about what to do with the separate account, the dividends and the separate account, and the capital gains? You go, no, those bastards made me reinvest. Now that sounds like a bad thing, but that's a good thing because if you must reinvest, which you do in a variable annuity, you get
Mm-hmm.
no constructive receipt and the money grows tax deferred.
Yeah.
Right, so a little different. By the way, and if this was in your retirement plan, it wouldn't matter, but in your personal account, it does matter. Issuing callable bonds is advantageous to the issuer because it allows the company to
Um, No, I don't think it's D. I don't think it's C. Definitely not B. Is it A?
Right on. I think the best analogy is a mortgage.
Yeah.
Right? You replace your high cost mortgage with a low cost mortgage, right? You call that away from your bank. I say, hey, Wells Fargo, I can get a cheaper mortgage elsewhere. Thank you. I'm paying off the mortgage. I'm replacing the high cost mortgage with a low cost mortgage. Which of the following statements regarding provisions of the Investment Advisor Act of 1940 is true?
Contract as collateral to a loan advisor wouldn't not be considered assignment. Big gains, business schools. D.
D is correct. Five partners. That's right.
That was a weird one.
Yeah, I like the phraseology. It's definitely funky, right?
Yeah.
So I think you got to be real careful. You got to stay focused on, three of these things are false. A is false, B is false, C is false, D is true. 7 years ago, Ivan was found guilty of embezzling securities from clients. He now wishes to join another brokerage firm. Which of the following statements is true regarding the situation? And I think he's going to have a little bit of a problem.
Yeah. It would be B.
He cannot be employed because he's still subject to statutory disqualification. You are correct. Misdemeanor involving monies and securities is a problem.
You couldn't be employed as like a, I'm trying to think. You couldn't be employed as like an administrator or something, could
Yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah. I mean, they would frown on that because they're going to say, why are you still doing business with this guy? But yeah.
Okay.
Two contrasting styles of portfolio management are growth and value. Which of the following pairs describes that contrast? That kind of interesting.
A.
Earnings momentum and book value, though, yeah, those are opposite. I think that's a good answer, right? Growth guys
Yeah.
are concerned with earnings momentum and not book
Mm-hmm.
value. Fundamental analysis, value is concerned with book value and not earnings momentum. So
Yep.
good answer. Which of the following are non-financial considerations? This is testable. Non-financial considerations that need to be factored in the client's investment portfolio recommendations. I like it. They're saying it doesn't go on the balance sheet or the income statement, but it's still certainly important in terms of suitability.
Oh yeah. A.
Yeah, right on. Right on. That's very
Yeah.
much on the test, right? And the way you get it right is just it's something that doesn't go on the balance sheet of the customer or the income statement.
Yep.
All the following statements regarding futures contracts are true except. So in the beauty contest of Ford and futures, we definitely know the winner is the futures, that we're going to use those in our customer's portfolio rather than using forwards. And what would be one reason we would do that?
It's A because I think you can.
Yeah, you can
I don't
close
think
it.
you tech. Yeah, you don't have to technically
That's right.
actually receive delivery.
Yeah, you just do the offset, right? So if you sold it, you bought it. If you bought it, you sold it. An order is received from one of your clients to purchase 200 shares of Jimco at 45 GTC. Good till cancel. 2 days later, while at a luncheon meeting with a different client, you were informed that an individual had the inside scoop that Jimco is subject to an FBI investigation. An hour after your return, you see an execution report for 200 shares at 44.90. And the under the Insider Trading Act Enforcement Act of 1988.
Oh, this is a weird one. Um, I don't think it's C.
Yeah, you're not
And
because you didn't do anything.
yeah, you're not in violation. You're not in violation because the trade is not in violation because the trade is unsolicited. B.
Yeah, you missed it. It's actually D.
D. Damn.
Yeah, that was okay. Not a bad miss. The timing is kind of there. It's not that makes it unsolicited. Even if you solicited that, you wouldn't be in trouble, right? So whether
Oh,
that's not,
because you didn't know.
yeah. So the pivot is not the idea that it's unsolicited. The pivot is that is you didn't know. Which of the following portfolio management styles would most likely incur? This is very much a test question. The highest transaction costs.
Definitely D.
Yeah, they love to torment you. The test is prejudicial. They don't like high cost structures. So whether it's tactical or alpha or whatever it is, that they like the low transaction cost tax efficiency is where the test is prejudicial. A letter of intent to buy a mutual fund can be backdated to include previous investments during the past.
Oh, 90 days, 3 months.
Right on. How good is that? 90 days is inclusive of the total time frame. What is the total time frame
Inclusive of the total.
of the letter of intent?
Oh, 13 months.
Excellent. Excellent. Can investment clubs pool their purchases for purposes of meeting a breakpoint?
Absolutely not.
There you go. If we're talking about a breakpoint, are we talking about an A share, a B share, or a C share?
We're talking about A share.
Right on. Remember, long term with a lot of money to invest.
Yep,
B
main
share,
one.
engine diverge sales load. Right on. Good job. What is the maximum sales charge on a mutual fund?
8.5%.
Right on. There's a lot of questions here. I mean, it is to kind of target rich. I call you. I say, hey, Oliver, you ought to buy the fund today. Because if you buy the fund today, you get the dividend. If you wait till tomorrow, the NAV is going down by the dividend. Selling dividends is a big no-no. You say, Dean, isn't that an artifice?
Oh, yeah.
Artificial sense of urgency, selling dividends? Or I say, hey, Oliver, the breakpoint's at 50 grand. You ought to buy $49,999 so I can maximize my commission.
Yep.
That's a very big no. That's called a breakpoint sale, right?
Yep.
Where I'm trying to maximize. So breakpoints are good, but breakpoint sales are very bad. Howard is an owner of 4 different insurance policies. Wow. Which of the following policies has death benefits proceeds? They're not subject to income tax upon death.
Oh, God, I hate these questions.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think
Insurance.
insurance is, I joke, insurance agents sell fear and stockbrokers sell greed. Insurance agents say, wouldn't it be terrible if? And stockbrokers say, hey, wouldn't life be great if I'm duly registered, I can sell both, fear and greed.
It's me. Howard is the owner of 4 different life insurance policies, which the following produce not subject to income tax upon the death of the insured. I'm gonna go. So it's 1, 2, and I know it's 1 and 2.
You're correct.
Um, it's
So
definitely
if you're
3.
taking 1 or 2, right? You got to take 3 now because you're correct. It's 1, 2. So now you're taking 3.
Yeah.
So now all you got to decide is you're going to put
Is
4
it
in.
4? I'm gonna say it's D.
You're correct. Remember, they're not asking about the estate taxes. They're just asking you, life insurance is not taxable to the insured, right? That's one of the advantages of life insurance. So
Yep.
if you're the insured and you die, it's not going to have any tax consequence to it. Portfolio maximizes investors' preferences with respect to return and risk is called.
C, not B. I think it's A.
You missed it. That would be the efficient frontier would be a set of portfolios,
Okay.
not a particular portfolio. It's a good miss, but the investor's preferences with rates, it would be the total set of portfolios, the efficient frontier, the feasible portfolios. This is the optimal portfolio, which is kind of stupid, but it's
Got
efficient frontier could have been an answer, but just not to this particular question. Among the characteristics of a levered ETF fund is that you will get leveraged ETF question.
Definitely not. I mean, they can. Between A and C, I'm thinking it's C though.
No, that's not true. We can sell to retail investors. It's kind of scary, but true. There's no requirement. It's not a
Oh,
private
they,
investor, just means private placement. This isn't a private placement.
so it's A.
Yeah, it's A, and they're just throwing the word levered in there to just get you going in some cloud Jedi mind trick.
So
So
the
one of the
C, it
biggest
doesn't,
testable distinctions about open-end mutual funds and ETFs is open-end funds are not marginable, ETFs are.
got it.
Right? And then C, that's wrong, but they don't do the leverage doesn't come from bank borrowing, it comes from the use of futures. And they're not for the long term. These are short-term trading vehicles. Short term. You're going to get this, and you're also going to get an inverse. So they're going to give you like a 2x levered ETF or an inverse ETF. A general risk component representing the variability of a stock's total return as it directly relates to the overall movements in the general economy.
Which is B.
I'm sorry?
B.
B, systematic risk, the variability of a stock's total return as the overall economy. Now, here they didn't tell us that's the market. They said that that is actually the stock itself, right? But you're correct. It's the tendency of securities prices to move together.
But I've gotten that
Customer of
wrong.
investment advisor inadvertently mails stock certificates. This is testable. The IA. The IA does not maintain custody. So you were supposed to send it to the broker dealer, and you send it to my investment advisory. If the
Mhm.
certificates were received on Monday, NASA rules would require that the certificates be.
Uh, no, you'd have to return it, so it's not D. It's not A.
I don't think it'll be as nasty as this because what they're asking you to do is apply the number of hours to the answer.
Yeah, and it's,
Remember how many hours it is?
I think it's 72 or
You're correct.
48.
22 hours would be 3 days, right?
So it would be A no later than Tuesday
No
or
later.
Thursday.
There you go. Right. So the 72 hours, I think, will be how they'll test it, but you just then have to apply the 72 to this answer set. The conference board releases information about the economy on a monthly basis, include another number of different indicators. Economic indicators can be leading, lagging, or coincidental, which indicates the timing of their changes relative to the economy. Which of the following is a coincident indicator? Tells us where we're at in the business cycle. Now, on the real test, the one to worry about are leading economic indicators,
Yep.
not coincident. But that being said, which one do you think is coincident?
Not A.
Yeah, you should definitely know A. You should have been able to eliminate that because that's a leading economic indicator.
Yep.
So A is out.
I'm actually going to go with C.
C, agricultural employment. No. It's going to be industrial production. I wouldn't worry about this at all in
Okay.
terms of coincidence. The two I would know are leading indicators, right?
Okay.
All those others are leading indicators. Employment are leading indicators. Industrial production is the answer. The other one I would know besides stock prices is the yield curve.
Mm-hmm.
The yield curve. When we have a negative or inverted yield curve, that too is a negative leading economic indicator.
Got it.
Right now, the yield curve is flat. Because that means there's a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen with interest rates. A normal yield curve is when short-term rates are lower than long-term rates. I always joke, Oliver, if anybody asks you about economics, finance, or investments, you want to sound smart, you should say it has a lot to do with interest rates. If you just shut up, you sound good. People say, what about them? You say they fluctuate. They say, is that good news or bad news? You say it depends. You tell me some more. And then if you want to spice up, you can say, I'm watching the Fed. I'm concerned about monetary policy. And, and then you get tested. I joke, we're not trying to, on the 65, turn you into an economist. We're trying to make sure you don't embarrass Wells Fargo at a cocktail party, that you know enough to kind of sound dangerous. Mary bought 1,000 shares in the morning and sold 1,000 shares in the afternoon. Under 34 rules dealing with the regulation of the use of manipulative and deceptive devices, which of the following statements is true?
Let's see. I would say A.
Yeah, that's called giving the false impression of volume.
Yeah.
That's a classic. That's called painting the tape.
Yep.
Painting the tape. Good answer. The death benefit of a variable life policy must be calculated. So you're going to, a couple insurance questions. If you tell me you missed the test because of insurance, I'm going to say, come on, you had bigger problems. But, there's a couple.
It's A.
Yeah, right on.
I just got this today. That's why I know that.
Yeah,
I
that's
got it
just
wrong.
aim and shoot, point and click. Which among statements concerning international direct investing is correct? International direct investing. So I'm assuming, again, this is part of the language on the test. And I told you the guy at Kaplan, Chuck Lowenstein, well, don't tell him I said I love him, but he's a bigger jerk than the real jerks on the test intentionally. So I'm assuming this means we're not going to be using a mutual fund. We're not going to be using an ADR is what I'm thinking this means.
It's debatable. I would say B.
Yeah, I think that's the best answer given that answer set.
Yeah.
Do they have 10 Qs? I don't know. They have 10K. They do. Is it in English or is it in, Espanol? What is the case? Which of the following people would not meet the definition of a person associated with an investment advisor? Now, when I hear this, I think somebody who's not going to be taking a 65 or a 66 is what I'm thinking.
Sociopath. It's definitely C.
C is in Charlie?
Yep, that's correct. Like that does meet the definition.
Yeah, which of the following people would there? Yeah, good point. You got to be careful to not being embedded in there. So you are correct. C does meet the definition.
Yeah.
I think here I would have attempted to use, it sounds like you're using it, the Sesame Street trick. One of these things is not like the other, or process of elimination. And so if you're using process of elimination, one thing I would want you to do is take it off the table once you've dealt with it. So you've dealt with that, and you're telling me correctly that that does meet the definition. That person is going to get registered. And so once we deal with it, we're gonna say, okay, well, once we've dealt with it, we're taking it off the table. So I'm trying to take it off the table. There we go. So that's out. So now you have a
Uh,
1 in 3 chance.
so I think it's A because I think B is correct and D is correct.
Well, B is again, it's a buffet, take what you like. I've said the way I like to go about this is it says, which of the following people, so
Mhm.
people means these are natural persons, living, breathing human beings, walking planet Earth, would not meet the definition of a person associated with an investment advisor. So I then think, okay, one of these people is not likely to have to take a 65.
Which one is considered to be adherent to a registered investment advisor?
So you are saying the answer, what's your answer? A brokerage firm is considered to be the parent of a registered investment advisor. They're going to have to register as an investment advisory firm.
So it'd be B.
It's actually B, the typist. The key word there is typist.
Yeah, because it's like
All she's doing is, putting the information in the computer. She's not, that prepares the weekly research bulletins, publishing system. She's not a research analyst.
yeah,
Now, I
she's not
shouldn't be
accepting and
prejudicial. I
placing
said she's a
orders.
she. Who knows? Maybe an he. I don't know. But,
Yeah, fair.
the point is, it's a B. So that was a bad miss. What'd you say? A, I think.
Yeah.
You're doing okay though. I wouldn't like I say, you got to not be too hard on yourself. But keyword there is typist,
Mhm.
and then operating the publishing system means she's not the one preparing the research product. She's just, putting it in the system.
Got it.
If a business fails because of a new technology that makes its products obsolete, this would be an example of.
A.
Yeah, and the easy way to avoid that is diversify, right?
Mm-hmm.
Easy way to diversify is a mutual fund, right on. Under SEC Release 1092, this is an interpretive release, which standards are used to define a investment advisor?
Business of receives compensation is the business's principal activity. Uh, provides advice reports analyzing securities. I think it's B.
Excellent, excellent. Well, now I'm sorry, not so excellent. You are putting out A, or Roman numeral 1, and that's ABC. ABC, I give investment advice. B, I'm in the business of giving investment advice. There's the B, and I want compensation. A, B, C. 1, 2, and 3 meet the
It is.
definition of an investment advisor. A, B, C.
So it
So you
doesn't have
missed
to be
that
its
one.
principal activity.
No, some of us do, don't do it as our principal. I want my investment advisory firm. I'd say, Oliver, I have a broker dealer and I have an investment advisory side, something I need to disclose to you. I spend very little time on the investment advisory side of the business. The major part of my business is on the broker dealer side. I'm still, willing and to accept your funds and manage them for you as your investment advisor, but you should know it's not my principal business activity.
Yeah, I guess I should have thought about that, like a
Yeah,
lawyer too.
I
That
just
doesn't need
have
to
to
be as.
disclose how much of my
Yeah,
business is devoted to that.
got it.
Which of the following risks most likely would be reduced as the result of a tangible asset to an investor's portfolio?
Inflation.
Right on, right? That's that gold.
Yo.
Under the Uniform Securities Act, all the following are included in the definition of the term exempt transaction, except.
Uh, C.
That is a miss, except, right? Oh, no, you're correct because it's except. My bad. You are absolutely correct. Even
I
D missed.
mistrust you.
I missed except. The reason I missed it, by the way, I was focused on things I like about tutoring, and one of them is, I have Oliver here could be a guinea pig. And so I've always tried to think of a better way to explain exempt securities
Mhm.
from exempt transactions. Exempt securities, what I usually say, Oliver, is a list of things that are exempt. They just don't have to register the US government, municipal bonds.
Yep.
An exempt transaction, a verb is how it's sold. So here's my new version. I'm going to try as an analogy. I say, when I am teaching for Kaplan, I've had junior instructors who are sitting in on my class, and they will tell me when we're on our corporate campus teaching this class that I am in violation of the dress code at Kaplan, that I'm not wearing a blazer and a tie. And I say, well, I'm exempt from that. There's no circumstance in which a dean is required to wear a blazer and a tie. There's no class I ever teach anywhere where I'm going to be in a tie. And then the junior instructor says, well, what about me? I say, well, you might, in certain circumstances, not have to wear a tie. It would be dependent on the class and where it's at. In certain circumstances, you would be exempt based on the type of class, not that you're exempted. So what the class you're teaching. I'm not sure if that analogy works, but I'm rolling it out on you. See,
It's not bad. It's not bad.
I'm gonna keep working on it. It's not ready for prime time yet.
No. It's getting there. It's getting there. It's in the
Yeah.
works.
Keep working on it a little bit. According to the Investment Advisor Act of 1940, which of the following statements about an agency cross is not true? So remember, dual agency means I'm representing the buyer and the seller in the same trade.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that, but
principle.
they have different interests, certainly, because the seller wants to pay or receive the highest amount of money possible, and the buyer wants to pay the least amount of money possible. And so I would disclose that conflict of interest.
D.
Right on. That's very much on the test.
Yeah.
Current assets on a corporate balance sheet. People tell me they struggle a little bit with this when they don't, they give you a couple of them, then you have to figure out which ones they are, right? So current assets are cash or things we plan to turn to cash within 12 months.
It's gonna be.
Did you answer C?
Mhm.
Good job. If we took the current assets and we minus the inventory,
Ratio.
what would we be left with? Be careful because you answered something I didn't ask.
Yeah.
I'm asking you, we took the current assets minus the current the inventory, current assets minus inventory, and then we divided. That'd be a ratio. I didn't ask you that. I asked if we simply take the current assets and we minus the inventory, what are we left with? That's called quick assets.
It's quick assets. I was just gonna say readily available.
Well, then
So
remember
it's
then.
quick assets.
And then we have a current ratio, but we also have that acid test ratio.
Mhm.
The difference between current ratio and acid test is the acid test says, well, let's not count the inventory. Let's take the quick assets because we don't have to turn the inventory into cash quickly because then we don't get margin. Which one describes unsystematic risk?
Unsystematic risk.
Unsystematic risk.
So can be diversified.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the way to attack it. If it's unsystematic, that means it can be mitigated through diversification. If it's systematic, that means diversification risk prevails despite your diversification.
What's market risk put at?
What's that?
I said A.
You are correct.
Okay. Am I quiet?
I just didn't hear that time. It could be, I get beautiful day in Vegas. I got my window open. So it's, could be just the, gardener next door making noise. A quantitative evaluation using the future value compensation. Which of the following is not needed? So about inputs and outputs.
You would need the rate of return. You would need the time period involved. Future value compensation. Okay, so I'm between the account value at the end of the period, the account value at the start of the period,
I
and I
like that.
think,
It's a test taker. When you have two answers that are opposite,
yeah,
gotta be, you can't leave them both there. One of them has to go because they can't exist, right? I call this the principle of mutual exclusion. Socrates is a dog. Socrates is a philosopher. He can't be both. He's either a dog or a philosopher, right? So you're correct. It's either B or D.
using the future value computation. Future.
So what it would to do, here's my example, right? I have a client who is 50 years old, has $100,000. He wants $400,000 in the future,
Uh-huh.
right? So we're trying to figure out what is the future value. We're going to be able to figure out what that is. We need to know the time period, 20 years, the rate of return, 7.2%, and the money we started with.
So it would be the count value at the end of the period. So
Yeah, that's
it'd
what
be
we're
B.
solving for. That's not part of the input.
Got it. Yeah,
Right.
so if it's future value computation, it's asking for the future value. If it's like
Love it. Love it.
present
So
value, yeah.
exactly right, Oliver. If we just now change the question, let's make sure we give it to you correctly. But if we change this question, and now I said same question, I'm just going to change one word. To make a quantitative evaluation of present value computation, which of the following is not needed? Well, D is not needed because that's what we're trying to solve for. What's needed is what we have at the future value, 400, right? The time period, 20 years, the rate of return, 7.2. So your point exactly. This is future value because that's what we're solving for. And this is
Got it.
present value. All right, good job. Al is an investment advisor representative for a federally covered advisor. Al has discretionary authority over most of his accounts and determines the shares of the RAND Corporation are a suitable investment for 7 of them. He enters a buy order for 1,000 shares of RAND and receives 3 trade confirmations, all at slightly different prices. When allocating these shares to his clients, how should he determine the price per share?
D.
Yeah, right on. You got to be fair. You can't
Yeah.
there's that jerk. I'll give him the high price. That's my favorite customer. One of the prohibited practices on the Uniform Act, Securities Act, is market manipulation. Which of the following are examples of a broker dealer engaged in that practice, market manipulation?
C.
You said 3 and 4. You are correct. Arbitrage is perfectly okay. Churning is not, but churning is a market manipulation.
Yeah, personal.
Right, so good job.
Yeah.
KPT is preparing to report its net income for the past year. So, we have our income statement, we have our top line revenue, and then we pay all our bills, and then we have bottom line. An increase in which of the following causes a decrease? Boy, that's a little gamma. An increase in which of the following causes a decrease. So I like to think, okay, so I'm looking at an income statement. I got my top line revenue, and they're saying what's going to make my bottom line go down. An increase in something in between there is going to make my bottom line go down because I'm going to have more expenses is the way I would think about it. But we'll see if that plays out.
So I'm fairly certain it's 2 because I'm thinking cash dividends are definitely a part of something that decreases your net income.
Well, so kind of got you here. Cash dividend comes after we have net income. So we're going to have earnings available to common. And then we decide whether we're going to pay a dividend or not. So the
So it
dividend
would be D.
So yeah, the dividend is going to do it. If our tax rate went up, our bottom line would go down. Right. And if our interest on our loans goes up, our bottom line goes down. So it's actually 1 and 3. I think the best way to think of this is, your own personal income statement, right? So you have money coming in, you have money going out. And they're asking what increase in money going out is going to cause the bottom line to go down, right? So Cash dividends are paid after we have taken care of everything else, the preferred stockholders, the interest on the debt, the taxes. And so we have what are called earnings available to common. That's called earnings per share when we divide by the number of shares.
Yep.
And then we decide whether to retain it or pay it out as a dividend or keep some, pay out some as a dividend, whatever the case may be. When comparing cash and margin accounts, it's important to note.
C.
An investor can lose more than, yeah, that's right on. Same supercharged speed you make money with is the same supercharged speed you're making money. Investing in emerging market stocks is likely to expose your client to which of the following risks?
C.
I'm not sure on that one. You're correct. What was your logic behind that?
It's the least likely currency you could definitely experience
Yeah,
because you're
there you go.
converting the
At least like the other ones are
currency.
definitely right. Politics,
Yeah.
the dictator takes your stuff. Right?
Yeah.
How long would be reasons for an employer to choose a non-qualified plan over a qualified plan, except?
Following reasons would be for an employer to choose a non-qualified plan over a qualified plan. Okay, I'm between A and C.
Yeah, I like it. You're on the right track.
Yeah. C plan with immediate
Yeah,
income tax
I think
section.
this one's kind of hard to kind of figure out what it's about. So when I'm thinking employer non-qualified plan, I immediately think of deferred comp,
Sure. So you're
right?
not
Because
going
I'm
to
not
get,
asking about a variable annuity because that wouldn't be through your employer, right? So when I hear the word non-qualified, I think variable annuity, but then I go, but yeah, it's employer. You don't get variable annuities from your employer. That's something you do on your own. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, if it's an employer and it's non-qualified, I'm thinking deferred compensation.
so I'm thinking C
Yeah,
because
that's
if
exactly
you,
right. I get the employer says to Oliver, if you have deferred comp, we're going to save some money because we're not going to pay you that money now.
got it.
We're going to pay you later. So I think it's kind of tough in this question to get to deferred comp. I mean, I could, if I didn't kind of go through this and think non-qualified, this is how I rolled back. I said, well, variable annuity, but then I read the question again and it says employer. I go, okay, well, that's not a variable annuity. So, okay, non-qualified employer, deferred comp is where then I go to.
The thing for me was a non-qualified plan and then the ERISA requirements. You can't discriminate if you're under an
That's right.
ERISA.
That's
So that's
exactly
kind of
right.
the two I matched.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's also part of deferred comp as well. Among the effects of a country devaluing its currency is that there'll probably be which of these? I kind of like it. I think you're going to get this because you demonstrated some expertise in a previous question. So let's see if that plays out in this version of that question.
So if you devalue your currency, you're more than likely going to have more money coming in. So it would be 1 and 3. So A.
Excellent. Excellent. I love it. I was expecting you to get that right, right? So, yeah, I love it. Looks like you reasoned your way through it. I call those judgment questions. Those are ones you can't really memorize as much as you gotta think it through,
Yep.
Good job. When attempting to determine the appropriate life insurance coverage to meet a client's goals and objective, a tool that is frequently used is
Needs analysis.
right on, right on. Under NASA agency cross transactions, which of the following would be a prohibited practice? A prohibited practice.
A.
Right on. You got to get written consent, right? Oh, prohibited practice. Failing, failing. Okay, just want to go back. I didn't catch the failing there first. Which of the following have equity positions in a corporation?
A.
Yeah, one and two. I love this answer set.
Mhm.
You know, if we liquidate this corporation, who has priority? I'd like you to put this in the proper sequence of liquidation from either senior to junior. I'll let you give me whatever you want to do, or junior to senior in liquidation. I'll accept either answer, junior, senior, or senior to junior, as people who provided capital this now defunct corporation.
So maybe it's junior 3, 4, 2, 1.
Yeah, from senior junior, it'd be 4, 3, 2, 1, or from junior senior, right? It would be the mortgage bondholders, secured debt holders, then the unsecured debt holders,
Yep.
then preferred or common. From junior senior, common, preferred, convertible mortgage. The common stockholders have a residual claim if there's anything left.
Got it.
What best describes that residual claim? A, market value, B, par value, C, book value. What best describes the theoretical liquidation value of a corporation?
Book value.
Yeah, right on. Right. Book
Well, that was
value.
a weird one.
Yeah. And if we're concerned with book value, what kind of investor are we? Are we a growth investor if we're concerned with book value? Or are we a value investor?
Value.
Right on. And are we engaged in technical analysis or fundamental analysis?
Fundamental.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. An investment advisor with no place of business in the state is exempt from registration with the state when making recommendations to all of the following except.
Okay.
I kind of like this one.
Yeah, this is a weird one. I'm between B and D.
You're correct. It's either B or D.
Ooh.
Yeah, sometimes you do fade out. I don't know what did you say B?
Yeah.
You're correct. Look, pay attention here. There is no such thing as accredited investor as it relates to the Uniform Securities Act, period, full stop. No such thing. If I'm a doctor with $5 million, I'm a retail investor in the Uniform Securities Act. Only thing accredited investor means, the only thing it means is you can accept an invitation to a private placement, period, full stop. That's all that means. So good job, good job. If an investment advisor is registered in another state and has no place of business with the administrator state, the advisor exempt from registration under the Uniform Securities Act if.
Business administrator in the state, the investment advisor is. Oh, C.
Yeah, de minimis, right? De minimis.
De minimis.
To comply with ERISA 404C, 401k must satisfy all the following requirements except a couple of test questions on ERISA.
So you do have to have three options.
Right on, that's exactly correct.
Sufficient information for that.
think you have to do it monthly, but this is one of the areas I'm weak in. I'm gonna kind of shoot in the dark here. Plan participant. This. D.
We got you.
Is it D?
It's actually A. We don't have to give you a CFP,
Okay.
right? We don't, there's no requirement that we give employees CFPs to help them with their investments. Absolutely not. All right, so it's A.
Got it.
B is right. We do give you sufficient information so you can, have an informed decision. Absolutely. You were right about the three core investments, and we have to let you transfer amongst those investments at least quarterly. So now we don't give people CFPs.
Got it.
On a Uniform Securities Act, a person who's passed the appropriate NAS exam, ooh, there's Oliver, but whose license has not yet been issued, can participate in. I don't like that they're calling a license instead of registration. But what they're getting at is your registration isn't effective when you pass.
Yep.
It's effective when we actually hear from the state administrator that you're good to go.
So I'm gonna say it's A.
Yep. That's again not public contact. You are correct.
Sweet. Internal.
Which of the following accurately describes a cease and desist order as authorized under the Uniform Securities Act?
I think it's D. Is
You're
it B?
incorrect. It's incorrect because it's coming from the state administrator, not a judge.
Got it. So it would be B.
It's actually, it's B as in boy.
Got it.
Right. And then if you don't comply, then the administrator will go to a court. And that wouldn't be called an injunction.
Got it.
Right. So again, part of the test is legalese. Needless to say, not bueno if somebody gives you a cease and desist order, right? Which of the following investment styles would be most suitable for a long-term investor who receives capital growth, but is concerned about execution costs? This is testable.
Buy and hold.
Yeah, that's definitely there.
Yeah.
A 55-year-old investor makes a withdrawal from his qualified pension plan. Which of the following can he do to avoid a tax liability?
Oh shit. This is a weird one. So it's gonna be qualified pension plan. So qualified.
You leave Wells Fargo and you say, I want my 401k money.
Yeah, you roll it over to an IRA in 60 days.
There you go. Exactly. That 60 days is testable. I don't know if it'll be that scenario, but at 60 days, 59.5, 10%, RMD 73, that stuff is testable.
That's
one evaluation used by a fundamental analyst is the price to earnings ratio. The PE ratio is the current market price of the stock divided by
the earnings per share.
Right on. What would we do if we took the earnings per share, we took the dividend and we divided by the earnings per share? What would that be called if we took the dividend and divided by the earnings per share? So I tell you, for example, the earnings per share is $3 and we pay a dividend of $1.50. And so if we take the $1.50 and we divide by 3, what have we established?
The dividend discount model?
No, dividend payout ratio.
Dividend payout ratio.
Payout ratio, right? We would associate a dividend with a mature, stable business.
Okay.
Right, a higher dividend payout ratio. We wouldn't expect a growth company to be paying us much of anything in a dividend.
Sure.
When a broker-dealer acts on the capacity of a principal in a trade, the firm has acted
as a contraparty to the trade.
Yeah, that's the best answer. I don't really like the answers of it. Yeah, it's not the others.
Yeah.
Bond X has an internal rate of 7%. Let's see if what Dean's about to tell you will work. I would just translate that to yield to maturity.
Mhm.
So bond X has a yield to maturity of 7 and a fancy word basis of 7. Bond Y has a yield to maturity or basis of 9. Both bonds pay interest semi-annually. If the required rate of return is,
Oh, this is a fun question.
yeah, kind of interesting. Kind of interesting.
So the net present.
So we're trying to decide what is a fair value for the bond. Is there, a valuation that we can, that we like, I guess, or don't like, I guess, because that's what net present value is about, right?
Yeah.
The idea of whether we're going to get a good value or not.
So some percent of net present value. So if the interest rate is higher. Wait, the net present value of bond X will exceed.
Yeah, kind of funky way to ask this.
Yeah. The net present value of bond Y. So bond X is the one.
Yeah, I think I would have eliminated any warm fuzzy answer. Like I'm going to toss out A just because I just don't think that is ever going to be the answer where they're both the same. We got to figure out one of them is different somehow.
I think it's D.
You are correct, actually. Pretty good. Pretty good. How'd you go about
The
that?
other two were actually they misplaced it. That's the only reason though. Like
Oh,
they
okay. That was good.
misplaced-
That was a tough one. I wasn't expecting you to get that one.
Yeah.
So good job. Which of following investments would not be considered exchange traded derivative, an exchange traded derivative?
Exchange traded derivative.
I kind of like this one.
You like this one? Is it A?
It's warrants because warrants you don't get from the secondary market. Warrants you get directly from the issuer.
Okay, got it.
Warrants trade in the secondary market, options trade in the secondary market, futures trade, and they are regulated. There is a clearinghouse, right? So it's actually the warrants, right? Would not be considered an exchange traded derivative. Oh no, you got it right. My bad.
Yeah.
Because we can't trade the warrants. You got it right. The forwards are not. So you are correct.
Ooh, yay.
Which of the following situations would present a conflict of interest that an advisor must disclose to clients to avoid unlawful and deceitful behavior under the Investment Advisor Act?
D.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. Those other things are problematic, but they can be disclosed.
Yeah.
Right, good job. Which among investments provide the highest after-tax income to your client who's in a 35% federal income tax bracket? You're going to have at least one question like this.
Really?
Yeah. Where you have to figure out whether you should buy a muni bond or whether he should buy a taxable corporate bond. So there's a lot of ways to go about this. A lot of ways to do this.
C.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent, right? I don't know how you did. I would have taken the $80 and said, okay, well, I'm not going to get to keep 35% of that. So I would just take $80. Yeah, 80. And I would have said, okay, my tax bracket is 35%. So I'm not getting $28. So then I'm going to take the 80 minus 28. And I get $52. $52 is better than 5,
Oh
right? So I could, 5 is $50 tax free.
my God, I just did the past
Eighty,
perfect.
80.
I-
Yeah, you could do that, or then you could take the treasury bond
Yeah.
and say, okay, that's $60, but I'm gonna have to give back 35% of that. I could times that, and so there's a lot of ways to go about that. You got it right, though, so key point. Voice of volume is not a characteristic of owning a limited partnership.
D.
Yeah, right on. You don't get tax-free income. That's munis.
Yeah.
You have a flow through, you have a general partner, and what Congress giveth, Congress can taketh away. There are tax advantages to partnerships. So anything that has tax advantages has legislative risk. Which of the following statements regarding risk diversification is least accurate?
D.
Yeah, yeah. Whenever we say you can remove all the risk, we're in trouble.
Yeah. No kidding.
If an analyst has been charting the previous 9 years of returns for a stock, and it displays the following results: 5%, 5%, 8%, -3, 10, 12, 5, 17, and 22. If you were asked the mode of these returns, you would reply.
D.
Yeah, do you remember what mode is?
Most common.
Right on. And what was your answer?
D.
B, 10%.
No, D.
I was gonna say, I just checked. There you go. Yeah. Investor wishes to use funds for his IRA to purchase a condominium for personal use. Under current regulations,
Uh, wait, hold up. No. A. Wait, no,
yeah.
no, wait, yeah, it is. It's a condominium for personal use, investment, not.
Yeah, this one's funky. I haven't anybody ever tell me that they would have to do this. It'd be interesting when we score this to see if we get this right, because there is for your first time home purchase. I'm not sure how Chuck is doing this, but it might be C depending on what the rationale is. Which of the following practices is fraudulent?
Fraudulent market security. B.
Yeah, right on. The formula for calculating working capital is
Working capital. B.
excellent, excellent. When a bank's reserve account is running low, it might choose to borrow from the Fed. When doing so, the bank will be charged.
Ooh, not Fed fund. No.
That answer set is very testable.
Yeah, it's the discount rate.
You are correct. That is correct. Fed funds is from bank to bank. Right. Bond analyst is plotting a yield curve and notices that short-term maturities, this is testable, have higher yields than intermediate and long-term maturities. This is an example of.
C, inverted.
Right on. Remember, that's a negative leading economic indicator.
Yep.
A person providing which of the following services to an ERISA plan would be performing in a fiduciary capacity?
Selecting. A.
You missed it. It's a pension consultant. It's C as in Charlie.
Ah, got it.
Yeah, I think that's a difficult one because I'm not so sure how we get from, pension to consultant. But if you're providing services, the point is pension consultants are investment advisors. So it's C.
Got it.
All the following are progressive taxes except. I kind of like this one.
Personal estate taxes, excess taxes on cigarettes, gift taxes. Progressive.
So one of these is regressive.
Yeah, so it's B.
I'm sorry.
B, right?
No, the more you
D?
make, the more you pay.
Oh, regressive, so D.
No, yeah. So the opposite of progressive is regressive. And what that means is it impacts lower people more.
Got it.
I think there's going to be one guy left paying $4 billion a pack, $2 billion in taxes, and $2 billion for the cigarettes. That may not be relevant, right? My nephew one time I was smoking a cigar and he was smoking cigarettes. And I said to my nephew, I said, you realize how regressive that tax is? I said, what are you making at the McDonald's? And he told me, I said, so you got to work like, an hour to pay for a pack of cigarettes. And he goes, well, Uncle Dean, you smoke a cigar. And I say, yeah, but it takes me a couple minutes to pay for the thing. I got a lot more money than you have. And he goes, that's unfair. I go, you're absolutely right. It is unfair. So, and my sister-in-law was funny. She goes, you didn't tell him she could quit smoking? I said, no. I said, he's going to need a better job if he has expensive habits. He's going to have to be able to pay for his, cigarettes. I was trying to tell him he needs to, work his way up the food chain so he can afford to smoke. A client has a margin account and is out of town for a week. The securities in the client's account fall dramatically, which requires the client to make immediate deposits into the account. Ooh. What can you do as an agent to assist the client?
C, make every reasonable
Yeah,
attempt.
right on. They give you all kinds of scenarios where your heart's in the right place, but you're still breaking the rules.
Mm-hmm.
An investor is likely to exercise a put option when the price of the stock
Is below the price.
Excellent.
I love options.
Yeah, a protected put. RIF Corporation would not be able to issue.
Corporation not be able to issue. Oh, right.
What's that?
Wait.
So does a corporation issue common stock? They do.
Yeah, they do.
Does a corporation issue rights to its existing shareholders that they can exercise to maintain their proportionate ownership? They do. Do corporation issue warrants as a sweetener to get you to buy bonds? The answer is they do.
Oh,
Does
it's a
yeah, you get that in the secondary market, right?
Yeah, CBOE.
Yeah. One of the assumptions underlying the capital asset pricing model is that
Capitals. Not B or C. A?
right on. Remember, that's A, right?
No.
Each investor has a unique time horizon. Not true. Under the capital asset pricing model, only whole shares available. Not true. Inflation doesn't exist. It's A. One of the more popular money market instruments is a negotiable jumbo CD. To be considered, it must have a face value at least. So what does jumbo mean?
Jumbo means jumbo means a lot. So I'm thinking the thing is, so I worked in a bank. Like I worked at US Bank before this. So I get these things screwed up all the time. But
Yeah. So if I come to Wells Fargo, say I want a negotiable jumbo CD, that means a CD. Negotiable, I can sell to a third party.
Mhm.
And jumbo means $100,000.
It is 100,000.
Jumbo CD. So it's 100,000.
Yep.
And again, in the retail branch, they might say, well, Gene, we don't offer jumbo CDs to retail customers, or maybe they'll say it is, but it's non-negotiable. Meaning you can't sell it to a third party. Do jumbo CDs, is that a security that needs to be registered, or is that not a security? It's CD.
If it's negotiable, yes.
But it doesn't need to be registered. Right? So CDs are exempt from registration on the Uniform Securities.
Money market, yeah.
In their advertising campaigns, registered investment advisors are prohibited from doing all of the following except. So one of these things you can do, 3 of these things you cannot.
D.
Right on, good job. One of your clients owns shares of NERP, a senior preferred stock. He's concerned about the financial solvency and wonders where he would fall in the event of declaring bankruptcy. The proper response to the client's claim is.
No. 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 D.
Right on, very testable. Risk-averse investor who's only invested funds in bank CDs was informed by his investment advisor representative that higher returns with safety, could be achieved in investing U.S. Treasury notes with a 10-year maturity. The advisor representative assured the client the investment in the federal government-backed securities is riskless. In this situation, the representative has acted.
I want to say B.
D as in dog.
B.
You are correct. He still has interest rate risk. You're correct, right?
That's inflation risk, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and inflation as well. Absolutely. Which of the following is a risk faced by investors in foreign stocks that is not found in domestic issues?
A.
Right on. Good job. Currency risk, right? Regional Financial Services LLC is a registered investment advisor in state A, B, C, and D. They just filed for registration in state E. Registration of this investment advisor in state E automatically confers registration as an AIR in state E on.
C.
Right on. A stock has been a downward trend for several days. When its price decreases to near 30, an investor enters a buy order at 31. This is most likely an example of.
B.
Right on, the support, right? The support's the bottom line, resistance is the top line. Disclosure of payment for order flow is required.
A.
Right on, the confirmation.
Huh.
We would tell you we're using a reference market maker. Duration is, oh, I like this one.
Oh. I want to say D.
That is incorrect. It's A.
Okay.
Right. And then remember, if I show you some bonds, the one with the highest duration, the highest volatility would be long and low.
Got it.
Longest maturity with the lowest coupon is going to have the higher duration or volatility.
Mm-hmm.
Excessive activity in a customer's account, primarily for excess commissions, is called.
Earning.
Yeah, not good. You pass it. I want to do some churning, some front running, sell some dividends, make some breakpoint sales, open some fictitious accounts.
It sounds
Out of the state investment advisors with no office in state are not required to be registered if only advising.
B.
Right on. Limited liability is characteristics of being an owner of.
Characteristic of general partnership. D.
D, 2 and 3, you are correct.
That was a weird one. Kind of, not really.
Interest rates are declining. An analyst would be most likely to state the business cycle is at which stage. So interest rates are declining. The
Decline.
Fed is lowering rates.
So contraction.
Right on. Knight Capital Group is a registered broker dealer whose primary business model is providing quotations in OTC stocks in which they position trade. Knight would be known as.
D.
Right on, market maker. Which have long been considered a precious metal. This is stupid, but testable.
Platinum.
Yeah, they love to ask about copper is not. So they have a question that says all the following are precious metals except, and then you need a copper is not. One of the best sources for financial information is found in the reports required to be filed with the SEC by publicly traded companies. The easiest way to access this information is by
Using Edgar.
right on. All the long statements regarding incentive stock options. Ooh, I think of incentive stock options. I think about Elon and what was it, $8 billion, and they had to come up with to pay his taxes on the exercise of these damn things. Woohoo!
Jesus, that's so much money.
Yeah, proof that a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean you're a good guy.
I'm kidding. Oh, C?
You missed it. It does create taxable income, a lot of it. The answer is B.
Wait, all these are correct except.
Yeah, you missed the except. The favorable tax treatment associated with an incentive stock option is lost as the shares acquired are sold before 1 year from the date of the grant or 2 years from the date of exercise. That's not truthful. A is, C is, and D is, right? It depends on that whether they're qualified or not. So, which of the following statements is true concerning variable life separate account evaluation? You're going to get, I told you maybe a couple insurance questions, not a whole lot, but they're there.
Unit values, there could be a monthly cash flows, there could be a weekly. D?
B, unit values are computed monthly, cash values are doing weekly. You missed it.
No, D.
D, unit values are computed daily. Hey, there you go. You got it right. Investment advisor reps are often called upon to help clients to select an appropriate mutual fund. When making a recommendation, which of the following would not be a consideration?
B.
You missed that. B as in boy. The tenure is important because you want to know who's the track record actually belongs to, right? I mean, That could be good news or bad news. The guy's been here a long time. That's his track record where he was did a terrible job and we tossed him out. Right. So what we don't care about is the NAV
Okay,
because that's, fluctuates.
got it.
Publicly traded corporation is going to sell to a wholly owned subsidiary, is going to sell. Oh, there we go. I think here Unilever, and they're going to get rid of Ben and Jerry's. So there you have an ice cream subsidiary, and they're going to sell it or list it. The information would be made available through the filing of a form. So what form do public companies file when they have a material current event?
See, 8K.
Right on, right on. I was reading it. No wonder they went on the ice cream business. It sounds like it's a pain. They're saying that they have to maintain all these refrigerated trucks and warehouses, and it's like, yeah,
It'd be such a pain.
yeah. I'm thinking I love ice cream, but I'm then I sort of think about it. I go, yeah, that would be kind of a pain in the ass to try. One way in which open-end fund, this is very testable, differ from closed-end fund companies is open-end company shares.
Happier, see. Open-end investment shares. No. Is it A?
Good job. Good job. Those other things are closed-end funds.
Yeah, I know. I could not figure that out.
Yeah, that's very testable. So mutual funds, don't underestimate mutual fund questions. Lots of them.
Yeah.
If a stock has a beta of less than 1, the stock's price will.
A.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. Walter and Wanda are new clients. When reviewing their holdings, you notice they have a account at a local bank titled Walter Willingham in trust for Walter Willingham Jr. The account provides that upon Walter's death, the assets of the account will pass to his son. This is an example of a couple of questions on trust, and this is one of them.
It's B.
Yeah, taught and trust, right? It's
At
established.
local bank.
Right on, right on. Risk-adjusted return is calculated by risk-adjusted return.
C.
Right on. Good job. Good job. Definition. Boom. When comparing the pricing of an open-end fund with a closed-end company, is it correct to state?
D.
I'm sorry?
D.
No, closed-end funds can issue open-end funds. It says is correct. You said the closed-end fund can issue common and preferred, true. The open-end can only issue one class of stock. Yeah, that is true. That is true. So you are correct. Investors create a ladder bond portfolio by placing 100,000 into zeros with maturities 1, 5, 10, and 20. The average duration of the portfolio, oh my God, we're never going to ask you to do duration or even calculate it. It's just a measurement of volatility. But here, what would you think about going about to do this? I don't think you're going to have to do it, as I said, but
I mean, I would honestly just do a mean calculation.
yeah, that's exactly what I would do.
Yeah.
Let's do that. So let's see if we get an answer available to us.
I
So
think
1 plus 5 plus 10 plus 20
it's 9.
equals 36. And then I'm going to divide by 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 on the 1, 5, 10, and 20. I'm going to divide by 4. And I get 9 years, and that is available to me. This is, I think, a good example of what I said earlier, Oliver. I go, what the, WTF? And then I take a strategic pause. I say,
Mhm.
okay, well, let me see. Can I do something? Is this really easier than it first appears? Like first I go, what the heck? They're asking me to do duration? What? And by the way, the bond in the portfolio, more likely a test question that has the higher duration is that 20-year bond.
Mhm.
Right? So that's a more likely question. If an investment advisor wishes to save current income taxes by placing certain investments in a charitable trust, so there, are a couple test questions on the exam. It's not, high risk, but it's there.
D.
Right on. We're not attorneys, right? So, go get some legal advice. Mutual funds computed NAV on April 24th was $100 per share. On April 25th, the portfolio realized gains of $2 per share and enjoyed $1 per share in unrealized gains. So we have a capital gains distribution here. What would be the NAV on April 26th, assuming an unchanged market? Kind of like it. They're kind of asking what is going to affect the NAV here.
It would be A, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's going to go down. It's going to be 101, right? It's going down by the amount of that. Good job. Which of one gives the investor least exposure to reinvestment risk? You got this right earlier, so I'm thinking you're going to write again.
D.
Yeah, right on. Right on. A stock analyst viewing a corporation's income statement would not be able to determine the company's, kind of interesting. So 3 of these things go on the income statement, and 1 of these things goes on the balance sheet.
Yeah, A.
Right on, right on. That's a current asset on the balance sheet, right?
Mhm.
When preparing a client profile, it is prudent to investigate the prospect's non-financial considerations. Again, we had one earlier. You got it correct. I'm expecting you to get it right again. Included would be
Oh no. It's B, isn't it?
Yeah, I would go B because the trick I use, I know it's helpful. It's a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you want, don't. I just simply go through each and say, is age on the balance sheet or income statement? It's not.
Yeah.
Is the attitudes on the balance sheet or the income statement? It is not. Is the experience with your previous investments on your balance sheet or income statement? It is not. Is your values on your balance sheet or income statement? Is not. Now, those are important things, but those are non-financial considerations. It's not a number.
Got it.
Show up on a balance sheet or an income statement. SEC safe harbor soft dollar compensation, very testable. Which of them is most likely to be included in the safe harbor? So one of the things the broker dealer can pay for, 3 of these things the broker dealer cannot pay for.
A.
Bespoke software to give clients asset. That looks pretty good. Desk remaining, furniture's out, office rent out, meal expenses. Yeah, that looks like the best answer. Good job. All right, submit. Let's see. I think you did pretty damn good. Your picture is blocking the score. Oh my God, that's awesome. We talked about most your misses along the way. Yeah, there we go. That was a miss. We talked about that one. Look at all that green. Woohoo!
Oh, there we are.
Yeah, that one we think we talked about. This one was 1, 2, 3, 4. Which of the following is not an investment advisor? You said 2 and 3 were not. It should have been all of them are not.
Mm-hmm.
You said we don't. You said the debit balance isn't in that template. It is
Mm-hmm.
based on broker call. The test is actually that the disclosure is made, but on the confirmation, that markup. You said you're not in violation because it was a result of an unsolicited order. And the answer was, yeah, we talked about that one. It's not so much you missed that one, it was just there was a better answer available.
Yep.
You said efficient frontier, and that was stupid. I think more often than not, you would have been correct. But this was actually the optimal portfolio. You said industrial production, and it was, or you said agricultural employment, it was industrial production. Who cares? The one to know is stock prices and yield curve.
Yield curve and stock prices, and those are leading.
Yeah, those are leading. Those are the two. You said a brokerage firm would not meet the definition. A brokerage firm that has an affiliate investment advisor does. It's the typist. I think we talked about that one.
Mm-hmm.
That's solely clerical. You said 2, 3, and 4, and it was 1, 2, and 3, right? Because of the ABC test.
Yep.
We talked about that, but performance is awesome. You said plan participants must be provided a CFP. Well, we're not going to miss that again. No. I mean, that's great if they do it, but I'm not under any responsibility to do that. Man, I thought we got that right. Now let's see this one. I thought you actually got that right. So this is on me and you. We said D and we felt pretty good about it. So 7% net present value will exceed oh man, we didn't read carefully. Bond X and Y. It looks like we said bond Y instead of bond X. It looks like we got them reversed. We know that a bond's internal rate of return equals the required rate of return, the discount rate. The NPV on a bond is 0. Okay. That is the case with bond X. Check it out, bond X, when the required rate is return 7. When the bond's internal rate of return is above the required rate of return, it has a positive NAV or NPV. That is the case with bond Y, his internal rate of 9.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, so it looks like we were on the back side of it. That was a tough one.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, I thought we got that one. That happens. That happens. I thought we might miss this based on the rationale.
Okay.
But Oliver, this just frosts me. It's not just Kaplan, STC, past perfect, but it frosts me more here a little bit because I know Chuck and he drives me nuts when he has in the rationale. We have not heard of this being tested. But here's how serious it is. He's getting his own kind of prejudicial behavior into the question, right? So, I thought we would miss this because it's not a house. It's a fractional kind of ownership situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's stupid. You said amending the plan.
Third party.
Yeah, that's the pension consultant. That was a tough one to get to from the given information. You said bonds volatility with respect to interest rates was correct. And you said it's equivalent. No, it's about volatility.
Yep.
Higher duration means higher volatility.
Got it.
You said that the IOS does not create taxable income. All correct except. And so you were saying that's false, and it does. That's why Elon had to sell a bunch of stock. B was the right answer. I wouldn't worry about that. I would just know the ISO versus, the non-qualified version.
Got it.
Let's see. You said 8K. We got that right. I don't know why I brought that one up. Yeah, we won't miss that again. The tenure is important, right? How long has that team been managing the money?
The NAV isn't as important. The 10.
Yeah, the NAV is important, but we hope it goes up, but we don't know that, to be determined. My crystal ball is broke. We said closed, and I kind of liked A here, but then I read your answer and I thought your answer was right. I was going to answer A.
Yeah, I was between the two.
Forward pricing. So now let's see what this is. Closed end. Can issue common preferred. That's true. The open end. Now maybe they mean B shares and C shares. Let's see what Chuck says here. Pricing of open end is based on the NAV for pricing. Yeah, we know that. There is no correlation between share prices and fund structure. Only the open end perform a daily NAV computation, but many do it weekly. It is correct to state that closed end can issue preferred in addition to common, and open end funds can only issue, but that has nothing to do with comparing the pricing of the two. Okay. Okay, got it. Right. So, okay, that's pretty,
That's
you know,
harsh.
yeah, I think what he would say is RTFQ. Read the full question. I didn't ask you about whether that's true. I said when you compare them. All right, Chuck got us. All right, well, that was pretty good, my friend. How do you feel about that?
Pretty good. It's
Yeah,
nice.
you're going Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so not a transaction relationship. If anything comes up, you know to send me the QID. If it's a question you want to talk about, you did real well on Brian's exam. I don't think there's any reason for us to believe you're not going to make your mark on Saturday.
Yeah.
Friday, dial it down, get a good night's rest. You reading skills, as we just did, is really important, right? So when I'm tired, my reading skills are greatly diminished. So we want to be in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed as we possibly can
Yep.
on Saturday. Night of cramming is over. You can't cram the night before. So, whatever you need to do, put on your game face on Friday, whatever that is. I like to, sometimes have a nice cigar and a scotch or whatever, just kind of and get ready for the battle. Like I go in and slay that dragon, that dragon on Saturday. So, all right. Anything else for tonight?
No, I'm thinking good. You think, I mean, it's good to hear that you think I'm going to pass. That's,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You didn't
um,
have any really bad misses, to be honest with you, right?
yeah.
So, that was a good performance. You were in there was only a couple that you were, that were bad misses. I usually say bad miss. I think I said maybe twice, but, yeah. So, trust yourself, be confident. And, there's nothing in this, session that makes me think you're at risk. Saturday, if you do pass, this is up to you. As you know, one of the things that's popular on the channel, I always only get permission, but you have this video and people love watching people who pass the test and, the video. So if you want, after you pass, if you want to send it back and know it'll go on the channel and you'll be a celebrity like some of the other folks, I would be grateful because it helps other folks. So,
Yeah.
did you get to watch any of them? It's funny. Sometimes I always wait till you pass and I get permission, but I have people all the once in come, did they pass? I go, well, come on. You don't think I would put it up there if they didn't, right?
Actually, that's how I got the idea. I watched the one with the guy that you have for the 65, and that it kind of helped me a little bit.
Yeah. He ran, I told you about resiliency. He too missed his mark, but boy, then he buckled down and he really, went at it and had his whiteboard. And, so it's, I like to, that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You can't get too much of your self-esteem wrapped up in tests. People invest with you because they like you, they trust you now because you can pass the test. I'm not being facetious. I used to have people who, by the way, if you do send it back, I edit our personal conversations at the front end out of it. But anyways, in his case, he said, I used to tell people, I'm not being facetious, that you get over 90 when they get scores, I'd say, I think I should fire you now, Oliver, for two reasons. One, how am I going to supervise you if you're smarter than me? You're always going to be one step ahead.
Yeah.
Two, you've only proven you're a bigger jerk as the person who wrote the test. I'm going to be spending a lot of time with you, and I don't want to spend time with somebody who's like that. So I think I should just fire you now. So, and then I always used to tell people, listen, you're struggling. I had a guy in the office. I'd say, go say hi to Kelly and come back here. I'd say, Oliver, if Kelly can pass this thing, I know you can. Right now, NASA say, are you sure he passed? I mean, so one day he came into my office. He goes, Dean, I found a way to send the prospectus for one stamp instead of three. And I said, well, Kelly, that's awesome. How do you do that? He goes, well, if you don't put the middle thing in. I go, Kelly, the middle thing is the prospectus. How many of these have you sent out? He goes, well, none yet. I go, oh, thank God. And then another day I saw him highlighting the prospectus. I go, what the hell are you doing? He goes, I want him to read the good parts. I go, now he's not malicious. He's just ignorant, and when he resigned, he was like, well, you don't want to talk to me and read my letter of resignation, which likes my page. I go, no. I said, Kelly, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I'm kind of glad that you're not with us anymore because you are a major supervisory challenge, not because you're crooked or malicious, just because, you do stupid things. So. All right. Well, you know where to find me if you need me.
Okay, I will. Thank
Okay.
you.
And by the way, you don't owe me a call, but I'll be thinking about you Saturday. I don't have to be at the top of the list, call your significant others or your direct reports or whatever, but if you think about me, put me in the mix. I'd like to know what happens to you. I think it's going to be great news. I'll be very rarely my gobs, surprised, and I'd be very surprised if you call me Saturday and say, "Hey, I missed my mark again." I'm going, "How'd that happen? What did you do, my friend?" So,
Don't change questions. That's what I've heard. I had some thing with Brian too, and his biggest thing with me was just like, don't change anything.
That's exactly right. I mean, Brian, my brother from another mother, absolutely. One of his favorite sayings I like is, he's got two I like. You take the test, don't let the test take you.
Yep.
And the other one is stick with what you know.
Yeah.
And don't be, picking answers that you're not quite sure what they mean.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, you know to find where to find me if you need me.
All right, will do. Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.